Hey there, how's it going? Welcome to Water Song's Workshop, the place where I work on character ideas, try out art challenges, and try to make your day a little bit brighter. Guess who has an obsession with Pokemon and Dungeons & Dragons, likes to throw them into a blender together to create some sort of hybrid abomination, and also happens to have a pencil? This guy! And I'm nowhere near done drawing Pokemon as D&D characters, so let's continue with introducing the characters in Dragon's Ascent. If you haven't watched the first few videos in this series, or you have a bad memory, let's do a recap. I am creating a D&D campaign for my friends where Pokemon exist as important NPCs, and the legendary and mythical Pokemon are deities. In this campaign, the Kingdom of Windspoon is being attacked by dragon demigods, and a group of elven siblings named the Dryarthams have started an underground rebellion with the player characters to take back the kingdom. But before we get started, I have something fun to show you. I have finally made the official map for the Kingdom of Windspoon. So now, you can have a little bit of an idea of where I'm talking about when I say the name of a place. This map shows you just how rugged the land is, with its extensive mountain ranges, thick forests, large desert, and depressive swamp. But without further ado, let me introduce you to 5 more important non-player characters. The lights are blinding. Sweat drips down her forehead. The roar of the crowd is deafening. The blood is pumping through her veins. She opens the curtain to the stage, and her illusion of expectation is shattered. A few people sit in the dugout stadium, scattered applause welcoming her. One day, she knows she will live in the spotlight, but she needs more members for her band first. Nevertheless, she will play her heart out no matter where she gets the chance to perform. She carries her trusty drum onto the stage and moves a stray piece of her green hair out of view. This is Rosa Ble, the soon-to-be founder of the Desert Drums and the toughest girl around. Rosa has always had a love for working out and has the drive to try and become the best drummer in the realm. This girl knows how to put in the work. In the coming years, she creates a traveling rhythmic band of predominantly drummers. She picks up a few more members as she travels from town to town, including an Aarakocra lute and lyre player named Kinokashu, and an elven dancer named Tritrill Dryartham. She has also made a few rival musicians in her travels who want to have their own place in the spotlight, the most notable of which is Diva Brava, a narcissistic, non-binary rock star with a blonde mullet and unrivaled star power. So that was a lot of name drops in a row. Let me break some of those down. Tritrill, you should remember from the Evolutions number 2 video, is the Sylveon Gijinka, who is a graceful dancer. Kinokashu is one of my player characters for this campaign. I'll draw him in a later video once we know more about him and his backstory, but for now, just imagine the rooster from that old Disney Robin Hood movie. And Diva Brava? Well, this is a character I played in a one-shot as a ridiculous throwaway character that I grew to love, and decided to put them into this campaign as a fun additional NPC. Basically, Diva Brava is what you get if you take Johnny Bravo and Cher and smash them together. You get a diva who knows how to show off and put on a show. Oh, mama. A few weeks before the dragon attack, both the Desert Drums and Diva Brava were invited to perform at a massive music festival at Cliffside Canyon to celebrate the spring equinox. Right before their set, Luone, the Dragon of Magic, landed directly on the stage, sending everyone into a panic. Rosa rushed Tritrill, Kinokashu, and some other band members into a secure building, telling them to escape at all costs. Rosa ran back to the festival to distract the dragon and assist those that decide to fight. The group managed to escape successfully, listening to the sound of Rosa's drum beating slowly, getting quieter and quieter as they gain distance. But Rosa hasn't been heard from since. This is the backstory for my interpretation of Rillaboom, as a unique combo of a College of Lore bard, a Way of the Open Hand monk, and a Circle of the Land druid. Now let's talk about stats. Rosa is very well-rounded and is naturally good at a lot of things, but her best stat is her strength. She works out and can pack a powerful punch. You don't want to be at the other end of her fist if you can avoid it. Next, she has 4 stats tied for second. Her charisma, wisdom, dexterity, and constitution are all pretty good. She's intimidating, charming, tough, agile, she has street smarts, and she is a great leader, a real jack of all trades. Her lowest stat is intelligence, only because she didn't get the opportunity to go to school and get that type of knowledge. As for spells, she has a decent variety. She has access to spells such as Thorn Whip, Primal Savagery, Catapult, Hunter's Mark, Spike Growth, Shatter, Cure Wounds, and Animal Messenger. Finally, let's talk about her design. I decided that the outfit for Rosa would look most like Rillaboom if she had a hula girl aesthetic with a grass skirt and leaf-themed accessories. I also gave her a choker necklace that looked like Rillaboom's face to give her a little bit more of a rocker vibe. I didn't change the drum very much, as that was a large part of both of their identities. I think I could have pushed her pose to be a little more sturdy to fit her personality better, but overall I still like her and would absolutely want to be her friend. But yeah, I hope you liked my interpretation of Rillaboom as a D&D character. Deep in the snowy mountains near Frost Peak Village, a young woman sits in quiet meditation. The snow swirls around her and the wind howls, but she is unfazed and maintains her concentration. Her mind is clear, and the fire in her spirit burns bright and keeps her warm. This is Cassie Valentine, and this athlete is always fighting to prove to herself how strong she really is. When Cassie was young, she was a star soccer player for the Frost Peak Frogs. I know what you're thinking, but Trent, I don't think soccer was around in medieval times. And to that I say, shush you. But in all seriousness, I don't want to spend time coming up with a new game that involves feet, so soccer is what we're going with. She became an amazing striker, and became known for her fancy footwork. Unfortunately, Cassie got caught in an avalanche one day that caused her to break her arms so badly that they needed to be amputated. The trauma and loss of independence that followed took her to a dark place in her life, and caused her to fall into a deep depression. After years of self-pity, she decided to take control of her own life again. She joined the Frost Peak Monastery to build back up her muscles, her confidence, and her independence. After years and years of training, she has regained full independence and has gained the perspective that life is precious and worth fighting for. Cassie decided to remain at the monastery to help train new members, including Venus Dryertham. Now luckily, the monastery is far enough outside the city that when the dragon attacks happened, the monastery was unharmed from the raid. Cassie, still wanting to help where she could, took in as many people as the monastery could handle. Resources are scarce for them seeing as they live in the snowy mountains, but hopefully their hunting and gathering skills are strong enough to keep them alive until they have a place to go. Have you guessed what Pokemon Cassie is inspired by? I didn't give a lot of hints, so I'd be surprised and delighted if you guessed correctly. But I chose to draw Cinderace as a human Way of Four Elements monk. So, Cassie has some pretty good stats all around, her most notable being her dexterity. Her nimbleness and complete control with her feet make her excellent when it comes to acrobatics and stealth. Next up is her wisdom. After going through her journey of self-discovery and coming to peace, she's become very wise, especially in her survival and insight skills. Next is a three-way tie between Constitution, Intelligence, and Charisma. She has a good amount of memory retention, she can last through a few punches, and she is a very trusted member of the monastery. Her lowest stat is her Strength. Cassie is another person who doesn't really have spells per se, but she can use her monk abilities to create some insane fiery effects. She especially loves using her Flames of the Phoenix ability to create a ball of fire that she kicks into her targets. Finally, let's talk about her design. I loved making Cassie. The fun pose, the trail of fire, and the lighting were so much fun to do. I really wanted her to be strong and cool. It was also a lot of fun making Cinderace's already soccer-esque outfit into even more of an athletic outfit that was loose and breathable. But yeah, I hope you like my interpretation of Cinderace as a human monk. High in the mountains are the gem-encrusted walls of the capital, Prestoria City. The city shines as light dances off the walls. What most people don't know is that inside these walls is a network of secret tunnels used by a top-secret spy network. Some shady-looking nobles stand outside the city walls, thinking that they won't be heard here, and disclose their plans to manipulate the queen into giving them more access to the gem-filled mines that the city is known for. Little do they know, a tall, slender lizard folk hides in the tunnels, eavesdropping on their every word. This is Il Terras On. But but he goes by Leon. Leon is one of the Queen's most accomplished spies, and one of the best information gatherers on the continent. He actually used to live on the continent of Solargius in the Kingdom of Evendust. He and his parents moved to Windspoon when he was a teenager, when his father received a job offer at the mines. Now, Evendust is known for its advanced uses of iron, silver, and gunpowder, so his father had been creative enough to create a much more efficient way of mining. Leon, however, was not into mining, but did have his father's creativity. He knew he wanted to be a protector, but he was a bit frail and was better at hiding than fighting. So when he became a spy, he wanted a weapon that was portable, light, and deadly to protect himself. Leon was able to use his ingenuity to create a primitive handgun that he would tuck away when he needed to. Leon was recruited by the Queen herself along with Rinala Drian during a soldier scouting. She saw tremendous talent that didn't suit the soldier aspect, but could be helpful for a different type of protection. Those two, plus 3 others, were recruited for the first formal Queen's Protection Force. On the day of the dragon attacks, Christoria City was attacked by the High Dragon Oasis, the leader of the group of dragons. Being the very first city that was attacked, there was no warning, and the capital was conquered very quickly. Leon and Rinala quickly made their way to the throne room to warn the Queen, only to find her surrounded by a group of high nobles in fancy multicolored robes and trapped in an indestructible magical sphere. Leon ordered Rinala to grab as many servants as possible and sneak them out of the city to somewhere safe. He, however, decided to stay hidden in the city and gather as much information as he could, promising to send letters to Rinala as often as possible with updates about the situation. So, this spy was inspired by the starter Pokemon, Inteleon, and I decided to turn him into a lizard folk, mastermind rogue / battle master fighter. Let's take a look at his stats now. His strongest stat is dexterity. His abilities to hide and sneak around are unmatched. Next is his intelligence. His investigation skills are incredibly strong, and he was smart enough to build his own weapon, so he has a good head on his shoulders. Next is his wisdom. As we know, Leon has a good head on his shoulders, so it seems reasonable that his survival and perception skills would be excellent as well. Next is his charisma. The only reason this is here is because the last 2 stats are awful, and the other stats were far too good. His dump stats are strength and constitution. Now, normally I would never dump constitution, but Leon is very skinny and frail, so thematically this makes a lot of sense. In terms of spells, we have no spells. Let's just say if someone's got a gun, he's got all the boom he needs. Design-wise, this one was difficult for me. I've never drawn a chameleon before, I've also never drawn a firearm of any kind before, so this was a wild one for me. I also wish I could have had a darker color palette, but I still love the pose and the concept behind the character. I hope you enjoyed my interpretation of Inteleon as a D&D character. The snowstorm is strong. The wind sends a chill through your spine, but a tiny, lonely hut stands strong through the storm. Inside is a warm living setup with blankets and pillows piled up on couches. Potted plants are situated all around the room, and a glittering white shield is mounted on the wall. A few bright and colorful bugs happily scatter and flutter around, and a fairy darts about the room, cooing over all her little friends. This is Aakash Rinvalsa, the proclaimed witch of the village. In reality, she's just a hermit who loves her plants and bugs. When she was young, she wanted to be an apothecary who grew her own remedies. But Zotar, the demigod of winter, had bigger plans for her. He appeared to her in a frozen pond when she was out gathering berries one day, and told her that she would need to be the one to help protect the world. He chose her as his champion, and gave her a special shield. She still tried to run her apothecary business while waiting for her call to action, and eventually became one of the doctors who treated Rinala Drian after she got her ice powers. The two became close professionally and worked on stabilizing Rinala's ice powers so she could control them better. In the process, Aakash learned some ice magic of her own to help her understand what Rinala was going through. On the day of the dragon attacks, Aakash saw that Thella, the dragon of ice, was destroying houses and capturing people in large pillars of ice. She knew this is what Zotar meant by protecting the world, and grabbed her shield off the wall. She flew through the town, trying to get people to head towards the monastery further out of town, but Thella managed to spot her and knocked her unconscious with a swift swat from her tail. She woke up a few hours later to see the town in complete ruin, and the majority of the villagers frozen in ice. Thinking that she had failed her mission, she flew back to her small hut to regroup, but she saw that her house was part of the collateral damage. She gathered the few plants and bug friends that she could find, and made her way north into the forest, trying to find new meaning for her life. This is my interpretation of Frosmoth, as an Oath of the Ancients paladin / Circle of the Land druid. So let's look at Aakash's stats. Her top stat is her charisma. She has a very specific charm to her that makes people want to trust her, even if they do think she's a bit weird. Next up is her wisdom. Being friends with bugs and knowing her plants gives her a great knowledge base for how to survive and thrive on her own. Next is a tie between strength and dexterity. As a paladin, she has trained herself to be strong enough to hold her own, and as a fairy, she's small, agile, and good at dodging. The second to last is her intelligence. She's got a good knowledge base about medicine, religion, and nature, but not so much in the other areas. So, unfortunately, that leaves, yet again, the Constitution to be the lowest stat. If I had a nickel for every time I made Constitution a dump stat, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice. My reasoning behind this is that she's a tiny little fairy. I can't see her having a massive health pool. Now let's talk about spells. Finally, I get to talk about another spellcaster that can make it up to 9th level spell slots at some point. Aakash can learn spells such as Druidcraft, Fairy Fire, Shield of Faith, Infestation, Gust of Wind, Sleet Storm, Cone of Cold, Insect Plague, Investiture of Ice, Whirlwind, and Control Weather. Having access to wind, ice, and control of insects makes her a great caster in multiple situations, in and out of combat. Finally, let's talk about her design. I wanted to make her super round and bubbly to show off her friendly and charming personality. My favorite part of drawing her was trying to make the magic look snowy and fluffy. I also really enjoyed drawing her wings and her outfit flowing out like she's caught in the wind. The pose also was pretty fun yet still protective, which I feel reflects her personality very well. And here is the ending result of Aakash, my interpretation of Frosmoth as a D&D character. On the edge of the forest of Spectoria Town is a tall, dark tower with a gothic spiked fence surrounding the perimeter. The sky is dark, and a full pink moon illuminates the forest. A tall blue dragonborn holding a custom-made crossbow hides in the underbrush. There is vengeful intent in his eyes as he pulls out one of his bolts and runs it across his scales. His skin slices open as the blood runs out and begins to swirl around his crossbow with arcane energy. Revenge is the only thing on his mind. This is Drian Trebuchet, the man intent on destroying the vampire that took his family. He was once the happy owner of a magic item shop. He had a husband and an adopted set of twins that he loved with all of his heart. Oftentimes, he would trade some fun items with the things that Solid Driatham would find while traveling through the wilderness. But one day, everything changed when Drian and his family were jumped in the woods on the way home. The owner of the castle had ambushed them to feed on their blood. Drian was barely clinging to life when a voice whispered into his ears asking if retribution was something he wanted. Blinded with adrenaline and hatred, he accepted the whisper's offer, sealing a pact with Bracona, the demi-goddess of specters. From the steel, he received some arcane powers, and has taken on some qualities of the specters that the goddess protects. Since then, he has been creating the perfect weapon and ammo to take out the Dark Woman who caused him so much pain and so many nightmares. On the day of the dragon attacks, Drian had been out in the woods gathering some materials when Kudon, the Dragon of Thunder, flattened the majority of the town with a resounding boom. He ran back into town to find out what was happening, only to have the entire town turn on him. Being a Dragonborn, they assumed he was behind the attack. He ran back into the woods and has lived there since, having to start over on the progress of his weapon and having to start over on his life. This is my interpretation of Dragapult as an Order of the Profane Soul Bloodhunter / Phantom Rogue. So let's go over his stats now. At the top is his constitution. He's got some tough skin, and if he's going to be using some of his own life essence to do powerful damage to his enemies, he's going to need some extra life. Next is intelligence. He's pretty smart, especially when it comes to magic items and crafting weapons. Third is his dexterity. Usually, Dragonborns are more known for their bulk than their stealth, but since Drian took on some ghostly qualities, it's become harder to hit him. Fourth is his charisma. Outside of looking like a dragon, he was once a fairly likable guy. That may have changed to feared in recent months, but the charisma is still there. His stump stats are strength and wisdom. He's not a super muscly guy, and his wisdom is questionable as he took a deal with a ghostly whisper, but they're still not terrible stats. Spell-wise, he has received an interesting variety. He has access to spells such as Eldritch Blast, Chill Touch, False Life, Hex, Invisibility, Misty Step, and Silence, making him an unseen horror. As far as his design goes, Drian was super fun to make. Drawing the blood magic was a fun way to pull the design to a focal point. I also enjoyed designing his backless outfit and how the fabric folded. Don't ask me why I drew him in such a sexy pose, I honestly don't know why. I did have a little bit of a struggle trying to make expressions with a face shape I wasn't super familiar with, but I think I did good overall. And that has been my interpretation of Dragapult as a D&D character. That is the last Pokemon as a D&D character today. Creating even more of the world with each progressing video has gotten my gears turning so much and has made this world bloom in my head. This is also the last of the NPCs inspired by Pokemon in my upcoming campaign. It was so fun making all of these characters, and I can't wait to make even more characters. I have plenty more things to draw in this world, including all the deities and dragons, and not Pokemon characters, including my players' characters and their antagonists. So which of the Pokemon as D&D characters were your favorites, backstory and design-wise? What kind of a character would you play as? Would you also base it off of a Pokemon? Let me know in the comments. In my next video, I'm going to take a small break from Dragon's Ascent so that it doesn't get monotonous, but I have a fun design challenge for you, so keep your eyes peeled for that. So until next time, keep being fantastic, and I'll see you around. The Kingdom of Windspoon is being attacked by dragon demigods and a group of elven siblings. They are not being attacked by elven siblings. I need to rephrase that. Hold on. I am carrying on and on. There was like multiple periods in there. I was just so excited. Let's do that again, just in case. Let me do that one more time, just to be safe. Be safe? Yes, let me be safe. You get a diva who knows how to show off and put on a show. Oh, mama. I love this character so much, I can't tell you. I decided that the outfit for Rosa would look most like Rillaboom if she had a hula girl. I think I could slow down. Yeah, that might make it better. Leon was recruited. When she was young, she wanted to be an apothecary. I'm saying that word right. Is it apothecary or apothecary? And Spellcheck just decided to correct it to apothecary. That's fine. Alright, I'm gonna do that again then. Don't ask me why I drew him in